Right, so it has been quite a while since I've recorded a video, and in part that's just because life has been so exceptionally busy. Part of the reason for that is that a colleague of mine is on sabbatical, and that's good news because I'm standing in for him while he's on sabbatical in this semester, and I'll be on sabbatical in the next semester. So if you're wanting to see more content about travel and my research and the places I'm going to visit, that's going to come up from July this year. So subscribe to the channel and you'll get to see a bit more of that. I can say, at least at this stage, that I'll be in Brazil for part of my time, in Germany, in Bamberg and in Berlin, and then in England at Cambridge University for part of it. So subscribe to stay up to date with the channel and the developments that are coming in that second part of the year. But yeah, for the rest of it, it's just been exceptionally busy. You know, the sort of normal things that occupy an academic's life. Now, you may think that that refers to research and teaching. Of course it does, but in my case, a little bit more so. It's also referred to the sort of administrative and management responsibilities that I have as the chair of our department, Systematic Theology and Ecclesiology, here at the University of Stellenbosch, and also the director of the Bayes Nordea Center for Public Theology. And yeah, it's a great privilege to be able to serve in that way, but of course it does mean that some of my own research has taken a bit of a backseat. Anyway, today I had the privilege of speaking on a panel which was arranged by the Equality Unit of the University of Stellenbosch on freedom of religion and how that intersects with religious beliefs or religious convictions. And some of the questions were exceptionally interesting. I mean, think about this for a moment. If you are a person who holds certain faith convictions, and let's say that in my sort of view of the sort of moral universe, these are constructive convictions. They have to do with things such as justice, inclusivity, equality, and you live in a context where the majority perhaps of the citizens in your nation, or the majority view of a particular religious tradition, doesn't support your particular convictions. How would you get them protected? What would you want to see in order to have them protected? Now, I've spoken about this elsewhere, but my conviction is that the most Christian way for us to think about the relationship between religion and law is for us to recognize that we need a just, impartial legal system that will protect the rights of all individuals, the religious and the non-religious, and that will seek to maintain that important tension that exists between either individual rights and needs, or those of a prescribed community, like a community of believers or a group of persons who hold certain religious convictions, and those of a larger community, let's say, for example, a nation state, the ways in which people's rights should be protected within a country. The right, for example, to hold belief or not hold belief. The right to be able to practice your belief with a certain measure of responsible freedom. Now, I qualify the word freedom with responsible because I think that there are certainly some beliefs and practices that emanate from beliefs that are not responsible. They're irresponsible. They might be harmful to individuals or harmful to society. I give you some examples of this. For example, the ways in which sexual minorities might be treated in certain religious communities. I think that is irresponsible. It denies their human rights. Sometimes it can even be an affront to their human dignity. Another example might be, for example, those who hold certain religious beliefs, like let's speak about the January 6th insurrectionists in the United States. Now, those beliefs about who should be in power and who should hold power, those beliefs, even if they are majority beliefs, and I'm not saying that the January 6th insurrectionist beliefs are majority beliefs, but even if they are majority beliefs, they should be held in tension with what is just and good and right, what is in the interests of the common good. And so for that reason, I think we need to maintain this tension between religious freedom and the right of certain authorities, such as external authorities, to hold us to account for our beliefs. However, where I become nervous is when outside actors like the state, for example, begin to legislate, to overstep their boundaries on issues, for example, of theology. Now, my reason for this is particularly that I'm uncomfortable about the ways in which it was used in our own history in South Africa. In our book, Freedom of Religion at Stake, I wrote a chapter on this. I'll link it in the show notes, where I discussed this idea that under the Apartheid State, a so-called Christian state, and I don't think it was very Christian at the time, many religious freedoms were curtailed because this particular state used its political agency to silence the voices of those who wanted to hold the state to account for its human rights abuses and for the heresies of apartheid. And I think that memory still lives with many of us. We still have a measure of distrust in the ways in which states use their power to silence questioning and sometimes even difference. And so I think that tension needs to be scrutinized very, very carefully. And of course, it needs to go in both directions. We need to have the right and the ability to hold the powers of the state to account and to question them and to ask where their responsibility reaches its boundaries. But I think they also have a responsibility to ask some questions of religious individuals or communities. Things, for example, like hate speech or actions that might endanger the lives of individuals in a community. The one thing, however, that I've contended all along is that we don't need special theology laws, religious laws. An example of this are the blasphemy laws that exist in parts of Europe that suggest that certain kinds of speech, theological speech, need to be curtailed. Now, those kinds of laws that make theological statements or convictions can be quite dangerous. And my sense is that we already have civil law to protect the common good of our citizens. For example, like we've heard in South Africa, these prophets of doom who use doom insecticide and spray their members for them to be healed, that's a civil crime. To endanger someone's health in that way, that's a crime which can be prosecuted under civil law. To make people drink petrol or eat grass, as we've seen in South Africa, also discussed in that chapter of mine, which, by the way, was entitled Prophets of Doom. Those kinds of actions can be dealt with in civil law, and we don't need a specific new section in the law that deals with that. But I'd love to hear your perspectives, your ideas on this relationship between religion and the law, and particularly between the religious and the state, or the church and the state. And particularly how we protect the religious freedoms and rights of minorities. South Africa, for example, Christianity makes up 86% of the population, and Islam is only 2%. Now, the kind of blindness that comes with that kind of Christian social imagination, and I use that in inverted commas, could cause, for example, the Muslim child to be expected to attend Christian prayers in a government school. There's a discussion of that in our book as well. And what would be the most Christian thing for us to do? I'll link a link to an article in the Festschrift of our late colleague, Professor Marianne Plaatjes van Huffel, where I give one or two ideas about how we should look out for the least, those who are minorities who seem to have the least rights in our societies, and make a theological claim, an argument that is actually what Jesus would do. But I'd love to hear your perspectives, your ideas. What should the relationship be between religion and the law, between the safeguarding of the rights of persons, but also the freedoms of religious individuals and communities to enact their beliefs with freedom and responsibility? So thanks for watching this video. It's been a while since I've posted one. I hope that there will be a few more. But please stay in touch with me on the channel. Drop me a note here in the comments or on my social media at Digital Dion, on Twitter and Instagram, my website dionforster.com. And please do subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It helps them in the algorithms. And I'd love to stay in touch with you. So thanks for watching.